Prime Minister Carney and Premier Eby, it's time for jail, not bail, and it's time to stop the crime. Zimmer in Fort Nelson with local contractor and resident Ben Wall. Hey, Ben.
Hey.
Good to see you. Yeah.
Nice to see you, Bob.
But as you can see behind us, Ben's been the victim of arson, and not just once, but several times. Tell the viewer maybe what's happened to you in recent couple of years.
Well, everybody told me that if I got into the towing that it might be a little bit ugly.
Yeah.
But never in my wildest imagination did I expect that I would have an arson on the first day and lose a shop and 9 machines since that time in a period of 2.5 years. So
wow.
It's been quite a ride.
You're a pretty solid person, but I know this would strain anybody, no matter how strong you are. Hey.
My family is paying the price.
Yeah, and Ben, we talked about this before. This federal government and provincial government soft on crime, the way they deal with criminals, because here there's been a ton of evidence of certain individuals that have been involved in these crimes, but it seems to be very difficult to even have them sentenced and convicted. Because I spoke with local RCMP, they're doing their best to really crack down on crime. But then it's been this sort of recidivism. You know, the bad guys seem to be not staying behind bars, and this stuff just keeps happening over and over and over again. What are your thoughts, Ben?
Well, I would agree with you. The local RCMP has been very good to us as far as they've done what they could.
Yeah.
But it seems like the system has some really serious problems about providing any deterrence for the criminal. The victims are the ones that are made to feel like they're the criminals, actually.
You know, we've seen this, Pierre has talked about this before, the same 40 individuals, you know, were arrested 6,000 times. And when I spoke with the RCMP about Fort Nelson, expecting a different statistic, and they said, well, that's very accurate here too. You know, 15 people in Fort Nelson are responsible for 90% of the calls that the RCMP detachment gets. You know, and it seems to be that the people committing the crimes never seem to be able to be kept behind bars.
The one thing I would also like to mention, 100% of what we're going through is related to the amount of drugs and the money that's being made from drugs, because 100% of the people involved are either using drugs or profiting from the drug traffic trade.
Right. Some of the names that are attached to some of the crimes around here, and they used to be Lower Mainland criminals, and now they've made their way up to Fort Nelson, and seem to be setting up shop up here.
They are. They're well set up and they're well established.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how well established they were until I have had hundreds of conversations on a lot of stuff with a lot of different people, and they're very well established in Fort Nelson. And Fort Nelson is a hub for the north for the drug traffic trade, and there's a lot of drugs go through here and a lot of money being made from drugs.
Even human trafficking, we've heard, is happening as well. So,
and all these arsons are funded with the profits from drug trafficking.
Wow. Well, maybe explain for the viewer out there, 9 pieces of equipment that Ben has lost due to arson in the last couple of years, eh?
Well, the first arson happened January 1st of 2022 when they tried to light the shop on fire. And
you have them on video.
I have them on video on that one too, and it didn't take that day, and we just covered it ourselves and didn't make a big deal of it. We cleaned everything up, painted everything up, fixed it up, and then the next one started on the 15th of June, about 3 weeks after we had been evacuated. Fort Nelson had been evacuated from the forest fires, and then they kept coming, and then the shop and the last bunch of equipment happened on my birthday on September 11th of last year, and then we were foolish to think that maybe we'd overcome that, and then here in the 15th of May or something like that,
hasn't stopped.
2 more units were hit, so it
nine
hasn't stopped. So there's been 9 pieces of equipment and your
shop twice.
Shop was hit the first time, and then it was destroyed the second time.
What would an excavator like this cost, Ben?
Well, replacement is somewhere between 90 and 150,000.
Really? And that's an auction one or brand new?
It's a used one.
That's what I figured.
There's none of
the
these
new is
at
a
the
lot
auction.
more than that.
This one is about 450,000 new.
Right. Wow. And
When I
we're
started
standing,
looking.
what you maybe can't see in the camera, we'll show it on the video later. There's a semi that's right behind us here that is burned out as well, and that's probably 250 grand there.
Well,
as
that
well,
one's it's an older used one, so
about
100,
100,000.
120,
Yeah.
depending 130, depending on. We haven't talked about the vandalisms. These machines were
Vandalized first.
They were vandalized first. This machine and the other one they burnt.
This was only at the end. The 9 burnt machines
Well, they were
is after a bunch of vandalism before
vandalism. Tires shot out.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Like we don't even talk about this stuff.
Needless to say, you've been the victim of arson 9 pieces of equipment and twice at your shop, and for some reason criminals are still out there doing what they do. And I think that's the frustration for a lot of Canadians, and is this the catch and release policies of the Liberal government and provincial NDP governments, but also the soft on crime in general. They just, give these guys a slap on the wrist and they get to walk free that afternoon and commit more crimes and do stuff like this, right? It's a shame.
Not only don't they experience anything and are they out there,
Yeah.
when these things happen, they stand in the park on the next lot and look at it and laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, even worse.
All this stuff has actually taken away my ability to contribute to the community, because it's taken up too much of my life. My ability to contribute to the community is not there anymore.
Right.
There's silent victims out there, because with the other thing that happens that we don't talk about is that if somebody does talk,
Yeah.
I'm hearing that they overdose at gunpoint to shut them up.
Wow. Scary stuff.
It's pretty scary.
Intimidating.
And those people have families, and there's victims there. There's many victims around here.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one. I might be the most visual, but
Yeah.
I'm not the only victim in Fort Nelson. I'm sure of that. I wish we could live in a society where people would respect each other again, and that criminals would get their due, and the deterrence would be there, so that common people that are just trying to live a normal life can go about their business without feeling threatened.
Yeah.
I think that's the average person. That's what
right.
they want. That's not where we are.
Prime Minister Carney and Premier Eby, it's time for jail, not bail, and it's time to stop the crime.